Hey guys, thanks for joining me for this fourth episode of Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests for this episode include actress and singer Hannah Zeile. We'll be talking about new episodes of This Is Us, which come up on Tuesdays on NBC. We'll also visit with award-winning creative director Samantha Hart. She's got a new book coming in March, Blind Pony, as true a story as I can tell. We'll also visit with Texas country artist Matt Castillo, and we'll also talk about his new single, Leaving Brownsville Tonight. If you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, and share with your friends. Up first is actress and singer Hannah Zeile. We'll talk about the upcoming episodes of This Is Us and some new music that she's been working on as well. First off, Hannah, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now, Hannah, I know the new season or the season continuing on of This Is Us, and your character specifically, this has been pretty big in the storyline. And for you, how excited are you for where your character is going in the show?
Yeah, I'm always grateful when I see a big storyline that the writers trust me to handle, and it's always material that's somewhat heavy, but in that way it challenges me, and I love that. I think I've grown a lot as an actor just from working on this show. So, yeah, it's been really exciting, and I'm always loving to expand on teenage Kate's storylines because I feel like those are the missing puzzle pieces into explaining Chrissy's character as an adult, Kate Pearson. So, yeah.
In spite of the heaviness of the show and of the subject matters as well, to have the reaction that you have from the fans and the way that it affects other people's lives and their thought processes, I mean, how cool is that to be a part of?
Oh, yeah, that is the most rewarding feeling as an actor, just to make a show that is more than just a good show, but it's also helping people, and people are relating to it so strongly. I literally have had experiences. I remember meeting a woman and literally just holding each other, and she started crying, so I started crying, and she was talking about how like her daughter was able to open up to her about an eating disorder, like because of my character. So just human interactions like that and making actual human connections through a character that I get to play is a huge blessing.
And you talk about the human interaction. I mean, obviously, the last 12 months, human interaction has had to change. And I know that you've also got the music side of things that you've got going. And timing was good on the releases, right? Back in March, just before all the craziness, right?
Well, it actually, my single that I released, Ode to My Anxiety, that one I released during the quarantine, and I actually wrote it during the quarantine as well. Just, I've already had previous struggles with anxiety, but I know a lot of people that hadn't really experienced that before were feeling that during this pandemic. So sometimes I write and record things just because I like to create, but I remember when I showed my team this one, and they felt like it was a right timing, and that it would resonate with people at this time. So, yeah, I actually recorded that from home during lockdown. So it was I had nothing but time, so it was a good way to pass time was by making music.
Yeah, we all have had a lot of time to ourselves and extra time to kind of rehash thoughts in our lives. What Hannah, have you what have you realized most about yourself in the last year?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that I've always described myself as such a homebody. Oh God, the irony now, but yeah, I've always just been a homebody, and I can be a little bit anxious and tend to want to stay in, and I feel like now I've had a new perspective, and I feel like I've, maybe held myself back or not lived fully in each moment, and now I want to say yes to more things and go experience more and just really be present and not and not caught up in like my anxious thoughts or being caught up in my head, but really just realize that, truly you don't know what could happen tomorrow. You don't know what the future holds. So just remaining in the present and really absorbing each moment as it comes.
Now, for you, the creative process, whether it be music or just writing, do you find that this last 12 months have the inspiration for writing, has it been more inspirational or has it been darker for you?
Yeah, I think that it's fully gone in waves for me. There was one point where, because I was home, I felt like I had no excuse but to create, and I felt really inspired. And then there's definitely been seasons where everything is kind of too heavy and too dark, and I don't feel inspired. And then I kind of would start to be hard on myself because I don't feel inspired and I'm not being creative. But learning to be patient with myself is another lesson I've had, and I think everyone needs to be patient with themselves during this time. And it's unprecedented times, and I think that just be kinder and patient with ourselves. So I've been in waves, but always working on it.
That's right. And again, new episodes of This Is Us, Tuesday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 local time on NBC. And Hannah, I also want to make sure and let our listeners know where to keep up with everything you've got going from the music, social media side as well.
Great. All my social medias are under Hannah Zeile XO, and all my music is under my name, Hannah Zeile, on all streaming platforms.
All right. Well, Hannah, again, thank you so much for your time this morning. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Yes, I would love to. Thank you so much.
Our next guest is Samantha Hart. She's an award-winning creative director and worked with the likes of some amazing artists, both musically and screen-wise as well in PR. Got a brand new book, and Samantha, wanted to give you a chance to talk about, I'm excited to kind of talk about the book, Blind Pony, as true a story as I can tell. And Samantha, how long did it take you to finally decide to put words, pen to paper, if you will?
Well, it was something I think was always sort of laying in the back of my subconscious mind. I really, I've always been a journal writer. And so I've, kept copious journals about my adventures, so to speak, over the years, and always found it just a cathartic process to write things down. And so some time ago, I was in an attic cleaning it out, and I came across a journal I wrote when I was 12. And it said, one day I'm going to write my story. And it just struck me as almost funny, that this little girl was saying, I'm going to write my story. And she had done so little living. But that's subjective, isn't it? Subjective. I mean, in her mind, she had. And so I went back and sort of revisited that young girl. And I decided that, yes, she did have a story to tell. Mm-hmm. And so I started writing it. And I really, I've kind of made a living as a copywriter and creative director, but I found that I really didn't know how to write a book. I mean, it's definitely a different process. And so I kind of, I'd start to noodle with it. And then of course life would take over and I'd get a big job in or whatever. And I'd have to, deflect my energies. But I had kind of a basic idea of what I was going to do or wanted to do if I could get there creatively. But then when the pandemic hit, I said, it's time. And it just flowed out, and it just miraculously came together, and people kind of like it. I've gotten some good reviews from some really prestigious people, and, I'm just very humbled by it. And I didn't really expect to even, I think when I started during the pandemic, it was more, again, like a catharsis. I was challenging myself, but I didn't really know where it was going to go. So here we are.
How hard is it for you to think about folks reading the story, or was it therapeutic for you as well?
It was very therapeutic, but it's devastatingly scary for me to think about people reading it. Um, because I was, I mean, most of the book happens before I turned 20. So, but I think that I reveal a lot of things about myself in the book that nobody had any clue was part of my background or who I am as a person. I mean, just drug abuse and, you know, things that I did, stupid decisions I made, and, I'd like to say I could write it off to being a kid, but I think, there were a lot of other things that contributed to my trying to find myself over the years. But I think it was just time for me. Like I just got to a point in my life where, for example, like I, you know, over the years, people would ask me, well, when did you go to college and where were you here and where were you there? And it just started to be like, I felt like I was living a lie to some degree because I wasn't being honest about who I was. And, I, you know, I hate to say it, but I didn't go to college. And it's, every time I'm yelling at my kids, like, you've got to get into a better college. They're like, you didn't go to college, mom. But, for example, when I got a big job at Universal Pictures, it was like, well, where'd you go to college? I didn't go to college, said to the recruiter. And she's like, well, you can't get a job at Universal if you didn't go to college. And I said, well, I went to Royal College of Art in London. She said, well, that's college. I said, okay, that's where I went. Well, I did go there, Cameron. I went there as a new model, for the painting department, So, I mean, and it's like, kind of like living by my wits for so long, just kind of hodgepodging a story together about who, my background or whatever. I didn't really lie. They were white lies, but I just kind of got tired of it. I just wanted to be authentically myself. And I mean, you saw this whole Hilaria Baldwin debacle.
Yep.
She pretended she's Spanish. Well, I went through pretending I was, someone mistook my Pittsburghian accent for being British, and I pretended I was British, and I just went along with it because I was hiding a deeper pain. So none of these things were like federal offenses, but on the other hand, it was hiding, and I grew out of that at one point. I even say in the book, I was going to give it up. I'm saying, I've got to get serious about my life. I'm not going to have this British charade anymore. And then I run into a British guy. And so, and so it's like, I went with it. I went with it again, and then I interviewed for a job and he said, you have a really great French aesthetic, especially for a girl from Australia. So then I was Australian. So, I mean, it was just like sort of bumbling along through life, trying to not be found out that I was underage to be serving alcohol, or I was, and just trying to get through high school, with all my might. And I was an incredible student. I was very bright. I couldn't have pulled off what I pulled off if I wasn't, uh, but it's sad. It's really sad. Like it was definitely, I look back on it and I say, if I had had the guidance, um, that I give to my children, what could I have done with my life? And so this is something that I felt I could pass on to other people, maybe, like that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be, you know, not from the London, or, you can be just from a farm in Pennsylvania, and still achieve great things. Um, so by the time I started my career in the music business, I had already done away with all that. I was already more authentic to who I was, but, still telling a white lie or two along the way.
They still do that a little bit though, don't they, Samantha?
Who?
in the music business, there's a little white lies that get passed around.
Well, I mean, my mentor, David Geffen, he told a big lie. He said, in fact, he changed the document that came over from UCLA to say he didn't go to college there. He whited it out, but he was like a top student, and look what he did with his life. But, I haven't done anything that grand with mine, but, I've had an incredible career. I mean, I've really defied a lot of odds in sort of going up the ladder and achieving almost everything I've really set my mind to do. But I think being a good person and being authentic to who you are is really the best accomplishment one can hope for, I think.
And that reality, I think that's I think what the people in the world today want to see is what are they don't want to see somebody that's got it perfect whenever they really don't. They want to see, the battling through the ups and downs, and for you, those ups and downs, obviously some amazing ups, some terrible lows, but the middle ground, does it make you appreciate that middle ground that much more?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, when things are just kind of status quo, I'm very happy about it. I seem to sink into the couch, very nicely when it's just cozying up with a cup of hot cocoa and a movie. So, yeah, I mean, you know, the I wouldn't change those experiences that I had though for well, almost for anything, because I think it really made me the person I am, and I rather like who I am. I think I'm an incredible mom, and I think I'm fiercely loyal, you know, to my friends and family, and so, I think I turned out okay.
Now, you talked about some of the amazing highs, and how much do you think that the life, the searching that you did before allowed you those opportunities, for those doors to open in front of you, in your later years?
Um, I think I think one of the things, which isn't I don't know if I would suggest it to anybody as a life skill tip, but I always had this mantra of I've got nothing to lose. And so it allowed me to go further, out of my comfort zone than maybe, I would have if I felt like the stakes were high. You know, I didn't have anyone looking over my shoulder. I was a teenage runaway from the time I was 14. So, I didn't have anybody to answer to except myself. And so I would calculate whether I wanted to do whatever it was. And then I'd say, nobody's looking for me and, nobody cares about, I'm just going to do it, you know, but I also found a way of like sort of, parenting myself, so there was that as well. But I think that overall, I think that just that independent spirit allowed me to really not care. Like, I think a lot of people feel like they stop in their tracks because they feel like they're not qualified or they're not good enough to get a certain job that they might want. And what I would say is just, step out of your comfort zone and just go for it. You might be surprised people, you might have something to offer that you yourself don't even know. I mean, there's a story I tell of in the book of, at one point at Geffen Records, um, they, I had a specific job, but it was really a job that was mostly handled by Warner Brothers. We were doing production. They hired me in production, and it was like meaning physical records. And the Whitesnake album hit really big. And all of a sudden, we were standing in line for records, and this was the big shot at Geffen to like blow up with, from that record. And so it was like, we got to get them on presses. So I was hired to sort of be the mediator between Warner Brothers and Geffen. And so as part of that, the CFO started giving me these ledger sheets so I could study them, like about inventory and, all the different bits and pieces. And I didn't even know what I was looking at. I was horrible at math. I'm looking at these ledger sheets. Yeah, okay, whatever. But it sort of sunk in through osmosis, right? Because I took it seriously. And so then when I found myself at a record pressing plant in Oliphant, Pennsylvania, I there were all, older men, were there, and mostly, from record companies. And I was in, there, this 20 something, you know, 90-pound blonde girl. And so I'm sort of walking around the pressing plant. I just kind of broke away from the group, and I came upon something that was kind of this contraption spitting out these, J cards. Remember the old cassettes?
Yep.
And I said, "What's this?" He goes, "That's our automatic J card folding thing." And I'm like, oh, when did this come online? And he's like, oh, we've had it for over a year, just about a little over a year. Well, we were being charged 5 cents a unit for J card folding, a manual operation. And this was automated now. So that little nugget of information that I picked up just from being a dumb blonde, I was able to take back to Geffen and save every record company under the WIA umbrella all, that rebate, which was huge and really set me on a, very successful trajectory. So, was I some kind of, math guru or some kind of accounting guru? No, but I was aware. And I think that, just taking the opportunities as they come. And, what part of me was a little disgruntled that I was in a dark office, reading this stupid ledger and, breathing someone else's secondhand cigarette smoke. But on the other hand, I took it as an opportunity. So I think that's a piece of advice I like to pass on to people is just, if I had thought about too much about the job and knew that that's what I was going to be doing, I never would have gone for it. I'd say I'm not qualified. But I had a certain awareness. All these men that had been in that job for years were touring that facility and no one saw that but me. So, I think sometimes it's good to be a round peg in a square hole.
That's
or
right.
Square peg in a round hole or whatever.
When did you know when did the creativity side of it, when did that show itself for you? Or maybe the
Well, I
opportunity?
talk about that in the book a little bit. When I was young, I was really busy all the time. Like I really wanted to accomplish things. And like my mom was always putting me in the corner. And I would negotiate. She'd be really mad at me over silly things, but I would try to negotiate being put over by the medicine cabinet so I could organize it, or put me over by the cereal. But why do I have to stand in the corner here where there's absolutely nothing? I'd say, well, if you put me in the corner over there, I'll organize the cereal boxes, or put me in the corner over here, I'll redo the pantry. I was like really busy all the time. And one of the things I loved doing was, moving furniture around. It was like, and these huge antiques were like doll furniture to me. I just pushed them around the place. And so I think there was a budding, interior designer there, I mean, I always had like creativity, like, or when my grandfather was in the hospital, I redid the barn. Like I put up a plaque, Barn Sweep Barn. I swept all the shake, it's called, that comes out of the bales of hay when you throw them down the chute. I swept all that up and cleaned it all up. I got in trouble because I swept all the shake away, and that's what you use to put on horse urine. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like I was always stepping in it, like instead of like, I was always trying to make things better, and with my creativity in a way, that was a creative thing for me. But, and I had a big imagination. I talk about that in the book. I had imaginary friends and, I lived in a sort of my own little world. And so I think I was always a really creative child. But then I think when I got in the record business and was around that world, I really started to develop, a more creative spark, and I started to design special packaging, which were like, I would take the album cover and then adapt it into some kind of special cardboard mailer. And that was really, I don't know if your listeners will remember what a CD is or a 6x12 long box.
Yeah.
But, I sort of was really part of that evolution of getting rid of that box. And so it was partially from, inspired by my daughter saying she thought McDonald's was, wasteful in their recycling practices. And I started thinking about how wasteful that box was. And then I explored how expensive it was to ship it. And then I came up with a package that was an alternative. And everybody was like, you're crazy, but, they'll never give up the long box because they fit exactly perfectly in a 12x12 inch space in a record store. And so that's like, okay, so it's Jetson technology in a Flintstone package. You're just perpetuating the old thing. Why didn't you just keep the album then, you know? So it actually was really wasteful because the album, at least you keep the graphics, right? So I made like a punch out Bart Simpson for Simpson Sings the Blues, like a paper doll on the back of it. And,
Mhm.
I started to really get creative that way. And that kind of led me to getting into independent film marketing. And so, when I went for that job, my boss was kind of like, well, you don't know what an IN is, or you don't know what an IP is, and whatever, and an interneg or an interpositive and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I can read books. And he just smiled and he hired me. So, and some of the campaigns I did really became benchmark campaigns. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the book All Right, All Right, All Right. It just came out about the film Dazed and Confused.
Mhm.
But, they recount a lot of I was interviewed for that. I recounted a lot of the funny stories of coming up with that campaign. And so, I was able to, I think, leave a mark on that landscape of independent film from the campaigns I did, which I'm really proud of. So, I think, and then from there, I just, went to Universal Pictures and um, worked on more films. And then I kind of evolved into starting my own company.
And obviously, the years of experience was there anybody in particular that maybe really inspired you or motivated you that you were able to work with?
Oh, I have so many. I mean, well, David Geffen definitely had a big impression on me. I just thought he was marvelous. I just thought he was so smart, and he was so inclusive. Like, at least from my perspective. I know a lot of people would say he's kind of a, you know, kind of a meanie, but to me he was really wonderful. I mean, I felt really supported by him when I worked there. And then when I went to the film business, I had there were 5 of us that were sort of part of really launching Gramercy Pictures, which is now Focus Features, and it was just such a great team, and they were all kind of really smart people, and we just really, were able to, I remember when we were marketing Four Weddings and a Funeral, the other 4 on the team, they were like, we put in a hat how much you think it'll gross, and they were all like 1 million, because if you can believe it, we were bicycling prints around the country and people were saying, can you subtitle it, because they couldn't understand the British dialect.
Right.
That was really before the British invasion in film over here. So they couldn't understand it. And so I really believe the marketing campaign helped people tune into that film in a different way. And of course, Hugh Grant, emerged as a big star. But I think it was really the marketing team. We did such a great job of launching it. And that goes to say not just my campaign of designing the poster and the trailer and the TV spots, but launching it out of Sundance and just lifting the film up to give it a sort of pedigree. So I mean, uh, but anyway, we put in a hat and I said 50 million, and everybody else was like 1 million, 2 million, and they pulled out mine and they go, we know whose this is, and they were making fun of me, and I was the closest. So I think that's another thing I would say to people about, back to your earlier question. Um, Sometimes when you approach things from an innocence, you have a fresher perspective than sort of yours tried and true. So I think, like, being on a team where you can be that spark, to say, like, well, it doesn't have to be 2 million, it can be 50 million. um I think that's, lifting the goals a little higher, moving the goalposts is something I think I've done in my career a lot. And then as far as other mentors, like, every boss I've had has been amazing, and even when they've really been hard on me, or whatever. But um and then I think filmmakers that I've worked with, from Steven Soderbergh to the Coen brothers, I mean, all of it, they've all been great.
Now, what was it when the times of trials? How were you able to keep the positivity each day to continue on in spite of all of the negatives that were coming at you? And what was the driving force for you?
Um, I just I just didn't want to be defeated by the demons I had inside me. I really wanted to pick myself up by my bra straps and just move on. I mean, I just had this like singular kind of, I think I was a little angry that I felt uh, my childhood was so disenfranchised, that I wanted to prove that I wouldn't be defeated by, all of the negative impressions that were made on me. I think I wanted to rise above that. Above all else, I just think I really wanted to get myself into a place where I was the master of my own fate. If that was good or bad, you know, was inconsequential, but I wanted to write my story.
And you have.
Yes, I have.
I'm sorry, the segue was there. I had to take it. And
Good one, Cameron.
yeah. Now the memoir Blind Pony, as true a story as I can tell. Let our listeners know where's the best place to find more information about that, and also all the socials as well.
Well, I'm on my website is samanthahart.net, and you can purchase the book there, or you can also purchase it on Amazon, and it comes out March 15th. And on social, on Instagram, I'm the real Sam Hart, and on Facebook, I'm Samantha Hart, and on Twitter, I'm Samantha Hart.
So there you have it. So March 15th, but folks can go ahead and pre-order today. Is that right?
Yeah. And sorry. Yeah, I was going to release it in October, but I didn't quite, it didn't feel like a fall book to me. So I felt it was better in the spring. So I ended up moving in, and then it was able to work on it a little longer too. So
that's good.
But I'm hoping the fulfillment is okay, because it was kind of shaky also in the fall. There were so many good books coming out, which is also played into why I moved it.
There you go. Well, that's good. Well, Samantha, again, thank you for your time today. I know we're cutting close on time. Hopefully, maybe as we get closer to release date, we can catch up again.
Well, thank you, Cameron. I really appreciate you having me on, and it's really nice meeting you. And stay warm and snow in your neck of the woods.
Our next guest here on the podcast is country artist, Texas artist, I guess you would call as well, Matt Castillo. And it's my first chance to have the chance to visit with you. And first off, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Welcome from South Texas, all the way down in McAllen, Texas right now. Thanks for having me.
Way down in Texas.
Way down in Texas. Yeah, man. It's pretty south. Been down here for a very long time. And we do this, when before the whole pandemic thing, we were on the road a lot. So traveling out of South Texas was a haul, but hey, man, we'll love it. And you guys got to come down and visit one of these days. I'll take you to all the good taco shops.
I've never been to McAllen. I know where you're talking about though, but where did I know this is the third album? Am I right with the latest album for you is the third album?
This is going to be, we're going to do a third album on this one. So what we're breaking it up is into an EP and then a full album, because with the whole pandemic thing, we really wanted to go in with a full album, but the world put an e-brake on all of us. So this will be my third album. Come down to it. Yes.
Now, for folks that maybe are kind of new to Matt Castillo or hadn't heard of you before, where did you first get the love of music in your life? I mean, was it something that you knew from way early, or was it something that just kind of came to you of late?
No. So I was born in Austin, Texas, and I lived there for a while as a little kid. And my mom is probably one of my biggest influences as turning me on to country music, So riding with her in the car, she always listened to Garth Brooks and 90s country music. And as a kid, I wanted to, please my mom and make her happy. So I would learn all the music to Garth Brooks, like Rope in the Wind and No Fences and all these things. And I just always wanted to do that. And I just kind of fell in love with 90s country music. And now it, in a sense, it bleeds out of me now. And if that makes any sense. And so when I first saw Garth Brooks in concert over that NBC special, I was like hooked, and I wanted to do that. I said, I wanted to be that right there. And so it wasn't until I got out of college. Well, I started playing guitar when I was a sophomore in high school, and I asked my mom for my guitar and she gave it to me, but I didn't know what I was going to, cultivate into. And one of the biggest things was my mom and my aunt and my uncle who helped raise me. They really nail it on the head, like, education first and make sure you graduate and you need to get a job and all these things. Right. So it wasn't until I graduated college that I gave my diploma to my degree to my mom and my aunt. And I said, look, this is for y'all. Now I'm going to go chase this dream. And so I really just put the pedal to the metal and was really hyper-focused and still am. So, I wanted to do that for them so they can't say, because I was the first one in my family to graduate high school and college and, start something that's pretty risky. And most parents would be like, stick to just what you know. But I really, really love country music. I respect it. I try to do the best I can to represent it. So, but if it wasn't for my mom, I don't think I'd be playing country music right now. So.
Now you talk about the 90s country bleeding out of you. And I was actually checking out the single again before we came on the air. There's obvious a little country in it, but who was the first country artist? I mean, aside from Garth, I mean, we all loved Garth, and aside from Garth, maybe who has had a profound impact on your musical style, maybe your writing or even vocalization, if you will?
I don't know exactly where the vocal side, I guess when I first started, Texas country music was also a big part of, figuring out who I wanted to be as an artist. And, I'm not going to lie. I was a big Randy Rogers fan, still am, I'm a fan first. And so when we started doing this, I don't know, I just started copying the way they would sing or emulate, Garth Brooks style and then George Strait. But, if you look at my playlist, I'm going after, I'm listening to like Dwight Yoakam. I love that Bakersfield sound, love that honky tonk that he has. I just loved his, atmosphere that he brings, his, personality. And then I get into the sad songs with George Strait. I get into the love songs, and then I go in and I dive in a little bit more with Brooks and Dunn and the deep cuts. And I feel like I'm a deep cut kind of guy. And, but vocally, people say I'm different things. I sound like, there's days I'll sound like Clay Walker. There's times I'll sound like Rick Trevino. There'll be the times where I sound like George Strait, or there are times I sound like Randy. So it's really hard to pinpoint exactly. And it's harder from this point of view. From the outside point of view, I guess it's a little bit easier. But, it's just those combination of things. And so, I don't know where it usually comes from, but, maybe people will start telling me down the road hopefully I'll be able to hopefully the goal is I'll be able to find my sound, my vocal sound, and then just run with it as best as I can.
Now, obviously, just in talking the few moments that we have, I can feel and see the energy that you have. And how hard has it been to keep yourself pent up over these last few months and not be able to play? And have you had a chance to play? I guess first question.
Yeah, we have had a chance to play during from March. We had just come off opening show with Flatland Calvary and Parker McCollum, and that show was really country. Like we came in and it was like typical, your traditional country with a little bit of edginess that we brought, and then that Flatland came in and killed it, and then of course Parker just stole the show, obviously, right? But after that show, everything started just falling off and shutting down. So I didn't know what to do. I was just trying to figure it out, navigate. And, I hate to say it, but owning a business, like my band, I still had overhead coming in, and I didn't know what I was going to do. What can I do? And then everybody just started flooding in with live streams. And I was like, man, I would love to do that, but I'm afraid to ask, So for a while, I did a few, and my fans, they helped me out so much. They bought merchandise, they sent over tips. Some venues that I had a great relationship with just sent me some money to just keep my head above water. And they said, just because you're a good guy, and that broke my heart. That I almost teared up and cried, because I never felt that kind of love. I was always giving it. I was always putting a great show on for these people, for the fans, and putting them first. And then when times are tough, they help me out. So I promised myself that the moment that the bars would open right back up and everything was safe, we were going to go out there and play. We didn't care if we were going to make no money. We were going to figure it out. And so we were pretty blessed to have at least 10 shows coming out, all ending the year of 2020. And so I told my guys, I said, look, we're very blessed to have this opportunity to play country music. There's a lot of bands out there that don't get to. So no matter what we do, we got to put on a great show. Your energy needs to be off the tops of the roof. Like, you need to just perform. And they did. And so that kind of gave us some momentum going into the new year. And so we kicked off our first headline show and our first show of 2021 in College Station this past weekend at Southern's. And that was a great show. We just had so much prep work. It was such an awesome just finally be on stage and playing.
Now, how hard is it for you to keep it pent up, or not just lose control, if you will? I mean, the first time out had to be just crazy, right?
Yeah, the first time out was kind of nerve-wracking because we hadn't really, performed as a group. So we had to do all the extra safety precautions and go rehearse and get everything done. But at home, I was going crazy, man. I would try to interact with fans. I would write some songs. I would just, trying to build up a new routine and a new habit, because we weren't going to do anything. Can't go outside. You can't. So there, for a little while, I was doing a Whiskey Wednesday, and again, the fans came in and they mailed me some whiskey bottles, and I tested them out, and they were so good. For a while, my bar was pretty stacked, but they helped me out. They got me through it all. So I just, now 2021 is all about them and the music and just prepping. And a lot of it, not going crazy, was just a lot of pre-planning of why we are here today, why we're here right now promoting Leaving Brownsville Tonight, my new singles, because a lot of it was just the pre-planning. So, I try to just write, play, keep my mind busy. But it was tough. I'm not going to lie. It was tough.
Now, what did you mentioned the single as well, and you mentioned earlier the Dwight Yoakam, and yeah, there's definitely the Bakersfield sound to the single. Just tell us the whole process. What was it? What part of the song was first for you this time around? Well,
to be honest, when this was back 2.5 years ago when we wrote this song, because we were building up to this time, because off my last album, Still Saying, we wanted to come and bring almost something a little bit different, some type of maturity. And so my producer and one of the co-writers on this song, Roger Brown, he really had this idea of being, me being from the Rio Grande Valley, Brownsville. And then the song is not about, about Texas. It's just about understanding if you're going to stay or leave, your woman. So we're going to write a part 2 of a song called For You off my last album. And we were headed down and everything. And then we took a lunch break. And before we ended our session, Roger says, hey, man, I got this song you should really check out. You should take a look. Let me know what you think. If it's something that you dig, we can finish writing it. I said, okay, cool. So he kicked it off, and he sang the first chorus and verse. And he says, what do you think? I said, hell, I love it. Let's finish writing it. So we wrote it with our other buddy, Tommy Connors. And he's like, once we get in the studio, Matt, it's just going to come to life. Right now, it's just on guitar. And the moment we get in the studio, you can just evolve into something bigger than what I could do. And I'm one of those guys that, if you put up a house in front of me and it's just wood and nails and everything, I can't see that big picture. I have to literally see it when it's done. So a lot of trust and, kind of going in a little blindly, but a lot of trust went into me trusting my producer. And so that song just came about. So when we got in the studio and I heard it live in that moment, I was like, holy crap, this is going to be different. This is going to be different. We want it different. I want it different for my sound. And I think we accomplished that. And I'm really excited about it.
And how cool is it to be a part of a genre, a musical segment of the society, if you will. The Texas country music is got so many different variants to it, and how cool is it to be a part of something that so many different folks can fit into.
Right. So Texas is all about being independent, having that rocker's edge, and then you have a little bit of that Texas style, and then you have the traditional side. It's good to find a place in there. I'm trying to wiggle my way into being myself, and I think that was one of the most growing, things that I've learned about the first album, Small Town Stories. That's still same. And then it was slowly coming out of me. And then once we came out with this EP and like Say It and Leaving Brownsville, I was like, I think I found my way. And I think I found my niche, I guess. I think it's going to be easy to take in and to easy on the ears. And it kind of brings back that little nostalgia that we were kind of missing. And I think what we need is a little bit more country. So I'm happy that I'm still being accepted, and people are digging it and they love it. And that means a lot to me. And so hopefully this EP will kind of put me back into that little area where a few of us are bringing back that traditional sound, I think.
That's good stuff. Now, what you learned in 2020 that you're applying now in the new part of 2021?
Just from a business standpoint, just always be prepared no matter what. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And that's on the business side, and having your plan set out. You can always have your goals in place. And if things change, it's inevitable. Things are going to change, but still keep on that plan what the end goal is. And so coming into 2021, that's one of the big ones. And on a band side, musicianship, my guys, it's about putting the music first, putting on a great performance. Don't take this for granted anymore. We don't know if things are going to open up 100% or what, but do not take this job for granted. There's a lot more people out there that are fighting for that spot, and we're blessed to have it. So, put the music first, be a musician, put your best foot forward, and don't ever have any negativity. Things are going to happen and out of our control, and that's fine. But we got to be a unit. And I think they're killing it right now, so a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but yeah, don't take music and don't take this job for granted, because it could be taken away in a heartbeat. So those are the things that we learned from 2020 coming into 2021.
That's right. Now, Matt, if folks want to find out more info about the single, about the EP, about the upcoming music tour dates, all of that stuff, where's the best place?
Yeah. So my website, mattcastillomusic.com. You'll find my tour dates. You'll find my merchandise. You'll find a little bit more about me, about what's going to happen up in the upcoming year, because this year is all about music and albums and EPs and all that. So I'm really excited about that. So you get to learn me a little bit. You get to learn more about me on my website. Follow me on Facebook, Matt Castillo Music, Instagram, Matt Castillo Music, Twitter @the Matt Castillo, and hopefully I'll get to see you at a show, get up to wherever you're at, and hopefully you enjoy the music.
All right. Well, Matt, it has been great to get to visit with you a little bit today. Best success in 2021, and hopefully at some point in this year we can catch you up face to face. That'd be great.
Oh, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to that. So hope everybody has a wonderful Tuesday, week, month, year, and hope to see you down the road.
That sounds good. Well, again, thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us for this 4th episode of Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, or anything else you'd like to know, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at GQ with Cam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. If you have a special guest idea, you can email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Again, thanks to our good friend Brandon Allen for taking the time to come up with the theme music. We're going to let him play us out and hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Join us tomorrow for episode 5.